Alrighty, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that houses a safe and open listening platform for casual, cold, and even the dumbest casual takes on the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of pro wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to today's episode number 56 of this freezing cold podcast inside of the visual and imaginary very cold fridge. So it's once again time to eat that very cold lasagna for more takes on the world of the National Football League, because we had to endure bye-week hell, the bye-week apocalypse, because there was a bunch of shitty games that went down during week 7 of this 2021 NFL season. And yeah, I imagine this was going to happen during my picks for the week. My last week's show, and man, did my picks sadly live up to my expectations. But we're gonna be talking about it in this episode. So we're gonna be talking about week 7, aka bye week hell, all the highlights, the results. We're gonna be talking winners and losers from the week that was week 7, the players of the week. Unfortunately, not as many as before, and we're talking about week 8. When it is all said and done, and that is going to be the show for today. So yeah, week 7, it was a hellhole. It was, in terms of the quality, in terms of the games, it was not good. It was really not good. There were only like 2 or 3 games at most that were actually pretty decent. Other than that, a lot of the games this past week were either total blowouts or like games played by teams that are like, not really like good and are pretty fluky. So we're gonna be talking about it in this episode. And obviously, before we do, make sure to check out the show on YouTube, turn on that notification bell so you can see the video side of things, and make sure to listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and Google Podcasts, and follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So let's get into today's episode number 56. Let's start with week 7. Like I mentioned before, unlike week 6, where it had full of interesting turns and twists, week 7, it wasn't so great. Several teams were on bye: the Bills, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the Jaguars all were on bye. And the entire slate of games featured teams that were not doing so well. Either not doing so well or were pretty fluky in terms of how they were. And it pretty much showed this past week in bye week apocalypse, week 7. So let's get into the games, starting with the Thursday night football matchup between the injury-riddled Cleveland Skid Marks, the Browns, taking on the Denver Broncos in a relatively uninteresting affair. That was because the Browns were going into this matchup injured, with Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, all injured in this game. And despite all the injuries, though, the Skid Marks, with Case Keenum starting, and a rookie running back by the name of D'Ernest Johnson, I'll retract that. He actually isn't a rookie. He's like a second-year running back. D'Ernest Johnson, they did enough to make Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos not remember there was a game on Thursday night, and they won 17-10. I mean, it was not really an exciting game on Thursday night. And this was with all the injuries Cleveland was having. So then we get into the Sunday morning action. The New York Giants beat the Carolina Panthers 25-3. And man, oh man, I think this was a trap game for Sam Darnold once he stepped into MetLife Stadium, because he was seeing all the ghosts of his Jets past, because he stunk up the joint once again. He stunk it up so bad with an intentional grounding call that got him a safety for the Giants, and he got 2 interceptions, or probably even more or even less, but it was enough for Matt Rule to bench his ass in the fourth quarter for PJ Walker, but even PJ Walker stunk the joint as well, because the Giants, even though they were their own sleeping mess for most of this game, Daniel Jones and company woke their ass up and overcame their own injuries. They were out Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Saquon Barkley, all in this game, and yet they pretty much exploded somewhat in this game, and they pretty much ran away with it 25-3. So then we had the New England Patriots beat the other New York team, the New York Jets, in a total whitewashing, 54-13. And Zach Wilson had to leave the game in the second quarter with a knee injury. But even then, the Jets weren't doing jack shit with him. So they had to give the reins to Mike White. And he got a touchdown like immediately afterwards. But still, Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne, Damian Harris, and pretty much the entire Patriots defense, they were pulling out all the stops over a lifeless Jets team. And even Brian Hoyer and the Patriots second unit were getting in on the fun. So the Patriots destroy the Jets 54-17. They get the season sweep on, well, they always do over the Jets. So then, in probably like one of the biggest upsets of the season, I don't know if you can even call it an upset anymore on this team. The Tennessee Titans pretty much whooped the Kansas City Chiefs 27-3. Like, no joke. They pretty much like hammered them at in Nashville. Holy hell. I was not expecting Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry to run over like the Chiefs like completely. And Patrick Mahomes, man, you have to be worried if you're a Chiefs fan, because he's kind of regressing here. He's going downhill. I mean, sure, the secondary sucks, but look at this offense. Like, Travis Kelce can't get up. He's the only kind of like factor in this offense. Tyreek Hill, he'll have some flashes, but Mahomes, man, there's something going on with him. Like, mentally, he's mentally not there. He just doesn't know when to just take the sack, because he just tries to play hero ball, and this was the case yet again. He tried to play too much hero ball, and it landed him in turnover city. And unfortunately, he also got nearly concussed in the fourth quarter, and he just was like, they're not gonna let him play, because the game was already in hand. So the Titans beat the Chiefs 27-3 in a big win for them. And then down in Lambeau Field, the Green Bay Packers beat the Washington football team 24-10. Washington was actually in this game in the first half, but they kept missing on their chances to score. They were in the red zone countless times, but Taylor Heineke couldn't finish the job. Antonio Gibson couldn't finish the job. And eventually, Aaron Rodgers and company slowly crept away from that supposedly scary Washington defense and put the game out of reach. And, for Washington fans, you got to wonder if Taylor Heineke gets benched if and when Ryan Fitzpatrick gets healthy to return. So, in the Miami Gardens, the Atlanta Falcons beat the Dolphins 30-28. Falcons jumped to another big lead in the fourth quarter. But Tua Tagovailoa, despite some mistakes he was making, he got the Dolphins back into the game, took the lead late in the game. The problem was they left over 2 minutes left on the clock with the 2-minute warning for the Falcons, and it allowed Matt Ryan to march his offense back onto the field, milk that clock like it was milk money, and Young Hoi Koo successfully hit the game-winning field goal with ease, and the Falcons are 3-3. I mean, sure, they're probably not going to make much noise in the NFC, but hey, they're not necessarily the worst team in the NFC South. So the Falcons beat the Dolphins 30-28. And then, in another big upset in the AFC, in what was supposed to be the match of the week, the game of the week, the Bengals completely dismantled the Baltimore Ravens 41-17. And for much of the first half and in the early portions of the second half, we thought this was going to be the game that most people thought it was going to be, and even I thought it was going to be. This slow start slugfest between both teams' defenses, and then eventually it was going to turn into a shootout. It was like that in the first half. Both teams' defenses putting heavy pressure on their respective quarterbacks, and the defenses making big stops. And then in the second half, early on, it was kind of giving the signal that we were going to get a shootout, with Lamar Jackson getting a big touchdown strike to, I think it was Marquise Brown, to take the lead. But then here comes Joe Burrow to take the lead right back for the Bengals. And yeah, from there, it became a blowout because Jamar Chase, CJ Uzama, and Joe Mixon pretty much scored on just about every chance they got. And the Bengals defense shut down the Ravens the rest of the way. So the Bengals, man, everyone thought they were going to be dead in the cellar with the pack, with like the Jaguars, the Texans, and trying to vie for that top pick. But no, here they are trying to compete for the AFC North with the Ravens and the Steelers and the skid marks. And holy hell, things got real interesting in the AFC North real quick. And the Bengals blow out the Ravens 41-17. Then in the afternoon slate, the LA Rams beat the Detroit Lions 28-19 in a battle of two quarterbacks facing their old teams. Dan Campbell actually took some gambles in the opening stages of the game. He got the opening touchdown, and instead of just kicking it off to the other team so they can get their possession, he robbed the Rams of their first quarter possession, and he kicked it onside, and the Lions actually got it back. And when they failed to convert third down, they decided to go for a fake punt right from the get-go. And even though they scored 3 points after, Dan Campbell actually nut busted his ass, man. He was super desperate to win this game. But sadly though, the Lions couldn't help Jared Goff from making Jared Goff mistakes. And eventually Matt Stafford, with the help of Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson, and that Rams defense that's led by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, they were able to get revenge in favor of Matthew Stafford over the Lions. And what was a surprisingly, a back and forth game between both teams. So Rams win 28-19, and at some point the Lions are gonna win at least one game, right? They're just too gritty and grinding. It's just Jared Goff that's holding them back. Then down in Vegas, the Vegas Raiders beat the Philadelphia Eagles 33-22, and the Raiders took advantage of the Eagles' inability to protect Jalen Hurts, as well as the offense's continued mistakes to move the ball. And the Raiders took advantage of the Eagles, being stupid, and turned those mistakes into points with efficiency. And the Raiders, those after all that drama with John Gruden a couple weeks ago, they won 2 straight heading into their bye. And who knows if they'll make some noise in the AFC. But hey, 2 wins is 2 wins, and coming off all that drama, they have to be proud of themselves. Shaking off all that emotional drama. And as for the Eagles, are you sure Jalen Hurts is the guy to lead your team in Philadelphia? I think you got to get some help from him. Otherwise, I think it's time to reinvest at the quarterback position. So the Arizona Cardinals easily take care of the Houston Texans 31-5. The Cardinals got to show off their newly gained weapon from the Eagles in Zach Ertz, and they ate their way through the lifeless AFC South team. The Tampa Bay Bucks defeated the Chicago Bears 38-3. Tom Brady, this time around, remembered there were actually 4 downs on offense, and we got a national showcase of Bears football. as Justin Fields couldn't handle the pressure from the Bucs front seven all day long. And, well, the offensive line did him no favors. And this was just a complete dismantling of Bears football. And in the Sunday night game, the Indianapolis Colts beat the 49ers 34-18 in a very wet and wild affair. It was honestly it was raining down hard here in California. And I mean, we needed it. We needed the rain, but man, it was like pouring real bad. But the Colts overcame Mother Nature better than the 49ers ever did in this game. Carson Wentz, Jonathan Taylor had a big strategic scoring game over the Niners' terrible secondary. And DeForest Buckner got a measure of revenge too on his old team, stopping the run and helping his Colts D-line force pressure all over Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm surely going to have a lot of questions about this 49ers team when I talk about them on the 49ers recap episode of the podcast coming soon. And then in the Monday night closer for the week, the New Orleans Saints beat the Seattle Seahawks 13-10 in a very unexciting affair. It was all Alvin Kamara in this one, in another rainy, sloppy affair for the week, in which neither quarterback was doing shit for their team. And in the end, the Saints were just a field goal better than the Seahawks. So overall, yeah, week 7 was just a very, very sloppy, very, very boring, because all the games ended in blowouts, and a lot of the teams that were playing were very fluky. Yeah, this was not a very exciting week 7. This week sucked. This week really, really sucked. And hopefully it'll be the only sucky week for this 2021 season, because man, if we get another dud like this, I'm gonna be sad. So now let's talk some winners and losers for week 7. And at least fortunately, there were some winners, and there were also some losers from this bye week hell. So let's first talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They went into Baltimore, and perhaps their biggest test of the season, and man, they really passed it with flying colors. They overcame a defensive first half battle and really laid the smackdown on a suspect Ravens secondary in the second half. Jamar Chase looks really explosive, and he's probably going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And you got all these other pieces around that are also helping Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon and the backup running back Samaje Perine, the tight end duo of T. Higgins and C.J. Uzomah. They're really helping Joe Burrow out in his second year. And Burrow is really doing well after coming off that ACL injury in his rookie year. And you got to give credit to the Bengals defense as well for being able to stop Lamar Jackson and pretty much shutting him down so bad that the Ravens pulled their starters in the fourth quarter. And like I said, everyone was expecting the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns to be competing for the division title, and the Bengals was just there. But, well, the Bengals just made a statement on Sunday and saying, hello, it's me you're looking for in this division title scene. So it's going to be it could be a four-way race for the division title. It's a fatal four-way as the season goes on. And then the Tennessee Titans, they beat the Bills in a very tough and grindy matchup on Monday night in Week 6. And then this past week in Week 7, they just completely destroyed the defending AFC champions in a much bigger statement than the previous week. And yeah, I mean, the Chiefs secondary sucks, and the Titans offense pretty much lives and dies by Derrick Henry. But I mean, hey, Ryan Tannehill had a pretty good game this week, and this was even without a less than 100% AJ Brown and a less than 100% Julio Jones. But if Tannehill can be a consistent scoring passer and a consistent playmaker too, and as well as if AJ Brown and Julio Jones can stay healthy each and every week, and if the defense can also generate pressure up front too, like from here on out, the Titans can be dangerous. They can be a X factor past the wild card round in January. And the Las Vegas Raiders, even though I'm not sure if they will be able to make crazy postseason noise or even qualify for the postseason. But hey, they got 2 straight wins these past 2 weeks heading into their week 8 bye. But this was just coming off 2 weeks ago. They were in the midst of this huge PR disaster with John Gruden getting all these emails leaked out about how he is this and that, and he resigned, and it spread a very bad taste within the Raiders organization, and they were trying to shake that off. And here they are 2 weeks later with 2 wins, and they got to feel a little bit good about themselves. And yeah, this is still a healing process for them, but hey, they got to feel good about these 2 wins, and hopefully they'll continue to build on that after the bye week. Now, as for some of the losers for week 7, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, as a whole, the Chiefs should be losers this week because they got totally wrecked by the Titans. But holy shit, Patrick Mahomes is really having Super Bowl hangover. I think he really got struck by the loser's curse. I mean, the Chiefs and him play well against shit competition, and then they fall flat on their face against the best of the best. I mean, now that I think about it, actually, even against the shit competition, he still makes the repeated mistakes of, trying to run out of the pocket and, try to yeet the pass to whoever's open and try to pray to his Lord and Savior that someone like Tyreek Hill or McCole Hardman or Byron Pringle or even Travis Kelce will make the catch. But then it ends up a lot of the times this season in turnover city. And he also can't take care of the football. When he was running out of running past the line of scrimmage in the second quarter against the Titans, he's trying to run to make the first down. He didn't secure the football. He was running one-handed and left him exposed for a Titans defender to freely punch the ball out of his hands, and that created a turnover. So, all in all, Mahomes is trying to do what he's been doing since 2018. Play hero ball. I mean, that's pretty much all quarterbacks that are like Mahomes in the NFL. They're trying to avoid the sack, run around behind the line of scrimmage until they can yeet it out before they get hit, and then if it doesn't go in their favor, turnover city. So Mahomes has to make an adjustment to his game plan, because whatever his style is, it's not working, because I think teams are figuring it out. Even the shittier teams are figuring him out. And he also has to learn that sometimes it's fine to eat the sack. It is okay to eat the sack. It's okay to get hit. He's putting way too much pressure on himself to, get the completed pass or get the first down. He has to ease some pressure off of himself. He's putting way too much. The Chicago Bears. Holy hell. If there wasn't a big time display of Bears football on Sunday, and I don't know what to tell you. Justin Fields kept turning that ball over. Some of which was his fault, but this was a big display of Ryan Pace's, the general manager, and the head coach Matt Nagy's incompetence of not investing in the offensive line for their potential franchise quarterback. And I still say potential because Justin Fields can be great for the Chicago Bears, but how can he be great when, Pace and Nagy can't invest in, protecting their QB? He was harassed all day against the Bucs' good-ass front seven. He had no time to throw, which led to a lot of the turnovers from Justin Fields, and he was constantly sacked. How was he supposed to, get the ball out when, pressure's in his face in every second? That's insane. That is very insane. And then, not to mention the fact that there's also a Bucs secondary that's just as bad as the team that the Bears are going to play next week that got destroyed by a much better team. So, Pace and the Bears organizations are fine with this. They're all okay. It's like that meme where the dog is sitting there on the table and there's fire around. It's like, this is fine. This is fine. We're okay with this group of chumps. So yeah, let's see how that turns out when Justin Fields gets tired of playing Bears football and wants to trade in 2 to 3 years, if not even sooner. And then my San Francisco 49ers. They are losers this week too, because Sunday night's rainy, wet stinker should be an indication to all 49ers fans of many, many things. Kyle Shanahan should be on the hot seat for not just his very questionable play calling, but his big ass ego for, him not using Brandon Ayuk, his lack of trust in pretty much all the players, and his, his vagueness on the injury of various players, including Trey Lance, among other things. 2, John Lynch's seat should also be mild, but not hot just yet, and not that mild, because his recent draft picks are either not healthy or they're underperforming. Let's take a look at Javon Kinlaw, the draft pick from last year. He is likely going to miss the season. He is apparently reported to going to be missing the rest of the season because of a knee injury. Like, this dude can't stay healthy. You drafted, are we in the are we back in the Jim Tomsula or the Trent Baalke era, the Trent Baalke days of the 49ers, where we're drafting dudes that can't stay healthy? Like, oh man, it's so bad. And then 3, Jimmy Garoppolo exactly fits Martellus Bennett's description of him, a bitch. And he needs to be cut after the season. And finally, the secondary is absolute dog shit, and they love committing the crime of pass interference because they just love magnetically attaching themselves to the defenders without looking at where the ball is going, and they love hugging them. They're giving them the big Bailey hug and taking them down. So, and then they get arrested for pass interference, and they give the opposing teams big yardage and get them into the red zone for easy touchdowns. So they let the Colts run over them on Sunday night in the rainy weather. They let Carson Wentz play like he's freaking Tom Brady all night long in the rain. And all in all, it led to a big time disappointing performance. And going forward, they shouldn't be thinking about playoffs. They should be thinking about the development of Trey Lance and seeing who else could be on the roster next year. And, Kyle Shanahan should be trying to find ways to save his job against, mediocre-ass competition. Because if he doesn't, oh man, Jed York has to make some very, very interesting decisions by season's end. So now let's hand out some Players of the Week awards. We start with the Bengals wide receiver and quarterback duo of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase for their big efforts against the Baltimore Ravens. Then you got Bucs quarterback Tom Brady for his 5 touchdown performance, or maybe even more. I think it was 4 or 5 touchdowns. And he even got his 600th touchdown, which Mike Evans tried to give away, his 600 TD ball to a fan. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But it was in the moment, probably. So Tom Brady got his 600 TD in Week 7, and the Tennessee Titans defense for pretty much shutting down and harassing and creating turnovers on Patrick Mahomes all day long in their game. So Week 7 is finally in the books. By week hell, we finally endured it and relived it again. Now it's time to talk about Week 8. We finally got through Week 7, the apocalypse of buys, and it was honestly a major boom of busts, if that even a sentence. It was just a major bust of blowouts that nobody will remember, and it's likely a week to forget. So, fortunately, this is a week 8 that's more forgiving. The Ravens and the Raiders are the only two teams on bye this week, and the action looks to bounce back with a better slate of games on paper. The Thursday night game, unfortunately, is not a good start, though, but we'll get into that in a bit. I will say, though, that there are a couple of critical division games on the docket that people should keep in mind for this coming week. And a couple of the games involve more teams that are either mediocre or it's just not exciting. But there are some games that could have potential playoff implications going forward. So let's get into this week that is probably like a much more like divisional, like kind of like a divisional like week, because you got at least 3 to 5 games that involve divisional matchups. So let's start with the Thursday night game between the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals, who remain undefeated at 7-0. The Cardinals, I think, are likely going to have easy pickings over Aaron Rodgers in the pack. That is because the Packers are going to be without Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard because they were put on the COVID reserve list, and they will not be playing in the Thursday night matchup. So it's going to be a lot of Aaron Jones, and if Aaron Rodgers trusts them enough, a lot of Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Robert Tonyan. And it's going to be interesting how the Packers handle that, but nonetheless, I think the Cardinals, with their big load of offensive weaponry, they'll be able to take care of the Packers with ease and go to 8-0 as they reach the halfway point in the season. So now we get into the Sunday slate of games. With the early morning portion, the Cincinnati Bengals travel to New York to take on the 1-5 New York Jets. I mean, it's no question that the Bengals are going to tear apart a Jets team that won't have Zach Wilson for a couple weeks. Mike White is going to be starting, and even then, Zach Wilson didn't do anything for the Jets under center, and yeah, there's no talent around him to help him. So overall, the Bengals are going to have a feast on the Jets on Sunday. The Tennessee Titans battle the Indianapolis Colts in a big divisional rematch from week 3. And both teams look a lot different than they did back then. Both teams have won 2 straight. However, the Titans have had the more convincing momentum, had the more convincing wins because they were against the 2 teams that faced each other in the AFC title match from last season. The Colts, meanwhile, have faced, 2 fluky teams in their 2-game winning streak. So I think that the Titans will continue to ride and die by Derrick Henry and hopefully get some, that same momentum from when they did last week from Ryan Tannehill. But I still think Tennessee will win this division matchup and sweep the Indianapolis Colts. And that'll prove critical when the division title stakes get much deeper into the season. The LA Rams travel to Houston to take on the Texans, and it's pretty obvious the Rams are going to be next in line to completely manhandle the sad sack Texans team. No contest, and yeah, the Rams are going to win this one. In another big divisional matchup, the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Cleveland Browns. Both teams are well rested. The Browns had that mini bye following the Thursday night game. The Steelers are coming off their Week 7 bye, but the Browns are still reeling from their injuries to Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, and who knows if they're going to be passing the ball a lot more against a Steelers team, despite their own injuries and their out of sync offense. But I think the Steelers, with their terrible towels, should get out with the win over their rival. The Philadelphia Eagles travel to Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions, the winless Detroit Lions. And I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to make a crazy bold pick and pick the Detroit Lions to win this game. I think this is a game tailor-made for them to win this game. The Eagles can't protect Jalen Hurts. They don't have the offensive line to protect them. And I know the Lions don't have a pass rush, but I mean the Eagles' offensive line is so bad that they can't protect Jalen Hurts. And even though the Lions don't have an elite receiving core, all they have is T.J. Hawkinson and Jared Goff is butt cheeks. I think the Lions will have just enough. They'll make get just a tad bit more aggressive. Dan Campbell will hopefully get the best out of Jared Goff in this game to beat the Eagles. If the Lions somehow lose this game, then they're probably not going to be able to win any game this season. Like any game. Like, do they even play the Jaguars or the Texans at any point this season? Like, I don't know, but they do play the AFC North and the the division and the NFC West for the rest of the season. So, oh man, yeah, I don't see it happening. So the Lions gotta win. Like, if they want to get at least one win this season, they gotta win this game. So I'm gonna go bold and pick the Lions to win this. So my San Francisco 49ers travel to Chicago to play the Bears, to play some Bears football. So we're going to get a masterclass of that. And the 49ers actually have a chance to right the ship when they face a Bears team that won't have Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn in the Bears front four, because they're going to be out injured. And this is a chance for the Niners front four to generate pressure with Nick Bosa, D Ford, and that front seven. And they can pretty much have their will against a Bears offensive line that can't protect Justin Fields. And if they can't do that, and if Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan can't also stay up the course and play up over the competition, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. I think the seat will get even hotter for Shanahan, and it'll just be Trey Lance time once more in San Francisco. So hopefully the Niners take care of the Bears. And I'm still rolling with the 49ers. So then, down in Atlanta, the Carolina Panthers take on the Falcons. And the Falcons continue to find ways to win. They sometimes choke, but they're finding ways to win in their 3-game winning streak. Matt Ryan is still performing very well, and Kyle Pitts is having his breakout year. And they'll likely continue that success against a free-falling Panthers team. Sam Darnold is back to his old Jets form. The defense is not performing as well as they used to, and I think they're going to continue to struggle against a Falcons team that is kind of heating up a little bit. So they're technically not the worst team in the division anymore. And then in Orchard Park, the Buffalo Bills host the Miami Dolphins, and the Bills are coming off their bye week pretty pissed off from the heartbreaking loss to Tennessee 2 weeks ago. They had 2 weeks to let it settle in, and they're going to be out to take their frustration from it against a Dolphins team that can't protect Tua, and the Bills are well assured that. So the Bills are going to take care of business against the Dolphins and sweep that season series. So the New England Patriots in the afternoon slate take on the LA Chargers in honestly, this could be a pretty big matchup if the Patriots, pick things up. I mean, the Pats had a typical blast to the pass performance, but I don't think they'll have a repeat performance against the LA Chargers because, well, they played the Patriots played the Jets, and the LA Chargers are not the Jets. And Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Jared Cook, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen, and pretty much the entire Chargers team, they were pretty much limited the last time we saw them on the field against the Ravens, and they're probably looking real hard to bounce back from that game and take out all their anger onto a Patriots team that's still is up to snuff. I don't think that it was a real game, a real big performance for them. So I'm going with the Chargers on this. What will be a pretty competitive game. And then down in Seattle, the Jacksonville Jaguars return from their bye to take on a pretty weird Seahawks team. And I'm going to go on another limb here. And I think the Jags, even though they don't have much support around Trevor Lawrence, I think they may do just enough to take care of a Seahawks team that still doesn't have Russell Wilson, and the offense is struggling mightily with Geno Smith, and while the secondary is still just as bad. So I think Lawrence and that Jags team, as long as they don't implode, they can get their second straight win and hand Seattle its fourth straight loss. So who knows? But I'm going to roll the dice and take the Jaguars. And then in the Mile High City, the Washington football team traveled to take on the Denver Broncos. And this might be Taylor Heineke's last chance to prove himself as Washington's starter, as he'll be play both a stingy Denver defense, and that's even without Von Miller, whether he plays on Sunday or not, and an offense that'll be getting Jerry Jeudy back from IR. Both teams' offenses are struggling at the moment, but I think with the return of Jerry Jeudy, Terry Bridgewater should be able to get this offense back in the rhythm on Sunday and get back in the win column. So I'm going with Denver. And in the other big division matchup of the week, the Tampa Bay Bucks, 6-1, take on the New Orleans Saints in a big NFC South matchup. This is a big matchup. Like, everyone in the NFC South is competing with another, but these are the teams that are in first and second place, and whoever wins will take possession. Well, not really. I don't know. I don't think they will. I don't think the Saints will take possession if they win, but who knows? Who knows? If they win a couple more games, maybe they will take first place. So even then, Tom Brady and the Bucks are riding high. With their offense, Tom Brady is still performing at a crazy ass level. He's like that final boss in a video game that you just can't stop. And the Saints, even though they're 4-2, they're experiencing all the highs and lows of, the famous Jameis Winston experience. So even though they got injury riddled secondary, the Bucks offense, I think it'll just be simply too much for Jameis, Alvin Kamara, and all the Saints to overcome. So I'm going to roll with Tampa. And then in the Sunday Night Football game, both the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings return from their byes as they both face each other in the Sunday night closer for week 8. I think Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins will continue their offensive success. I think this will be a not a big shootout, but I think they're going to try to outperform each other. I think just the Cowboys will be one step ahead of the Vikings because just the talent involved. So the Cowboys are going to win a close one over the Vikings. And then in the Monday Night Football closer, we're going to get another dud with the New York Giants taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. With all the injuries the Giants have, and I know Daniel Jones will probably try to do his best to dissect the very, very bad Chiefs secondary. I think the Chiefs offense will snap out of their skid momentarily and beat up on a bad Giants team. So I'm rolling with the Chiefs. So those are my picks in my preview for Week 8. What do y'all think? Let me know however you can. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. Let me know how you felt about this show. What are your thoughts about Week 7? What you think about my winners and losers? How do you feel about the bye week apocalypse? And now that it's over, we can move on to Week 8. And let me know what game you're most excited to see, or what you're not most excited to see, whether it's your team or not. However you can, whether it's on YouTube or on social media, leave a comment, leave a message, any way you can. But I'm signing out of the show today. I am DylanLasagna, your host of this freezing cold, very cold lasagna show. And make sure to always subscribe, turn on the notification bell on YouTube, listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, as well as Google Podcasts. Follow the show on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your take on the world of pro wrestling and sports. Freezing cold in the fridge, tasty as ice. And until next time, peace out.